The slow roll of tyranny is marching forward as Christine Lagarde recently gave this speech talking about the new legislative framework for a digital euro. This is the Euro Central Bank digital currency. It's going to be their version of the CBDC. Many central banks all around the world are either researching or trial testing, pilot testing a CBDC right now because, like I always say, a central bank digital currency is a tyrant's wet dream. There is nothing that will give a government more control over its people than a central bank digital currency. Control the money, control the people. Why? Because a central bank digital currency allows you full control of every single transaction that takes place in an economy. And money is half of everything that happens. Literally everything. Whether you go and work all day for money, whether you go out to eat with your wife for dinner and you spend money, whether you go home to the house you live in and you pay your rent or your mortgage, whatever you're doing, every single action that takes place in an economy, the other half of that transaction is money. So instead of passing a bunch of laws and regulations and all the messy bureaucratic stuff to try and gain political power over everything, all you have to do is control the money. Because if you can control the money completely, then you control the entire flow of resources across the entire economy. But most people do not understand this is where digital money is going, because central banks and governments are always just going to say, hey, we need digital money for all these reasons that we're going to dive into here. And people are going to be fleeced by this. And they're going to just say, hey, yeah, this sounds great. Let's let the government control our money because it'll be a little bit more convenient for a few things, maybe. So let's see some of the things that Christine Lagarde is proposing here. Have you ever wished that somebody would give you free gold or free silver every single time you spend your paper currency? Well, your wish just came true with the Bullion card from OneGold. This thing is the best thing since the invention of the card because no, it is not a debit card. It does not violate Gresham's law forcing you to save up gold and then spend that gold every time you swipe your card. No, this thing is different. It is a real, legit credit card that allows you to spend your fiat currency. And guess what? Every time you spend your fiat currency with this credit card, you get 1% back in gold and silver. That's right. Instead of using a credit card to build up airline miles that you're never going to use, and instead of building it up for cash back points that again are fiat currency, that trash, no, you can earn real gold, you can earn real silver just by spending your fiat currency with the Bullion card from OneGold. And on top of that, if you use your Bullion card to buy gold, you get 4% back. So here's how it works. You use your Bullion card to buy whatever you are going to buy, just like any regular credit card. Then you earn points with that card, and those points turn into gold and silver in your OneGold account. And they make it easy by automatically using your points to buy whichever asset you choose. And of course, there is no annual fee. You know I wouldn't be recommending this card if it was charging you every year the exact same amount that you were able to earn from it. I think those cards are ridiculous. And also your points never expire. And on top of that, you get a 0% APR for the first 12 months. And the best part about this is it uses your regular OneGold account. So as your allocated segregated stack of precious metals grows, at any time, you can redeem it for physical metal through AppMex, just inside the app. They make it extremely easy. And so now by using the Bullion card, you can watch your stack of precious metals grow even faster just by buying the things you were already going to buy using this instead. And now you get paid in gold and silver to spend your fiat. The Bullion card is an absolute game changer, allowing you to turn that trash cash into real sound money. Sign up with my link in the description below today. First of all, she says that maintaining citizens' trust in money and payment services in the digital age is an important objective by itself. But it's even more significant for the European economy at large because a trusted, efficient, and secure payment system is the basis for our economies to function effectively. So she hints at something that she'll actually dive into a little bit more in detail later without knowing it. But the fact is that central bank money, government money, fiat currency is only money because people trust in it. It is a faith based monetary system. There is nothing there of real value. The only reason it works is because people just blindly believe that it works. Now, it's backed by nothing, and there is nothing behind it other than a government's monopoly on violence, but that's a discussion for another video. For many decades, central banks have issued public money, and which is cash for individuals, reserve accounts for banks, and then the private sector relies on it to provide the bulk of total money, around 85%, in the form of commercial bank money. It's a hybrid model. This ensures that all forms of money can be used indiscriminately for payments throughout the economy. She's touching on the fungibility of money here, that for something to operate well as money, it must be fungible. That means that there are many units of them and they are all 100% exchangeable and identical to each other in value and in nature. There can't be anything different between them for it to function well as money. This is why things like seashells have operated as money at certain times in history, but they didn't last that long because seashells are all slightly unique and so they're not entirely fungible. This is why something like gold emerged and held as the dominant form of money for so long, because once you melt it down to its elemental form, and that's all you get there is the gold, it's 100% fungible. There's no difference between one gold coin that's 1 ounce of gold and another one with a different stamp on it that's also 1 ounce of gold. Gold was the global reserve currency, regardless of what government put a stamp on it for thousands of years, because at the end of the day, you can always melt it down and it's the exact same element, no matter where you get it from and no matter how long it lasts. Now, Christine Lagarde points out that the current system is currently under threat of kind of collapsing here because of a few things. Number one, people are increasingly paying digitally instead of using cash. And so central banks are realizing, hey, if we rely on just our ability to create physical cash as our anchor to produce the money for the people, well, people are starting to not use cash anymore. And so we're kind of losing our grip on controlling the money supply because nobody's really using it anymore. They're saying public money could ultimately lose its role as the monetary anchor for this hybrid model. Really what they're saying here is one thing, if we read between the lines. Number one, they don't like physical paper cash money transactions because they're entirely untraceable. They're entirely unable to control them. They can't see what's happening. They're not visible. They're completely under the table. There's no ledger associated with them. And people are able to use physical cash transactions for whatever they want, whether that's criminal activity, whether that is activity that they don't want to have to pay taxes on. And so the people who are in their ivory towers wanting to control things and pull strings don't like it. And second, in the absence of the central bank being able to control their monopoly on having this public anchor, the emergence of new kinds of digital assets could harbor instability and confusion among citizens about what is money and what is not. Now, take, for example, what recently happened in Nigeria. If you haven't seen my last video about this, they tried to roll out a CBDC in Nigeria, and the Nigerians largely rejected it because they could tell very clearly, we like Bitcoin. You government are trying to give us this thing that looks like Bitcoin because it's a digital currency, but it's not, and they rejected it. One of the highest adoption rates of Bitcoin in the world, immediately rejected their CBDC. So unfortunately for the central bankers, no, there will be no confusion among citizens about what is money and what is not. There will simply be a disagreement about what people want to use as money if people are left up to being able to choose for themselves, and they will choose something other than what these ivory tower pigs want them to choose. She then slams Bitcoin and Ether for being unbacked variants of cryptocurrencies, and she said even stablecoins, which are supposed to be less volatile, they are vulnerable to runs because they're often not backed at all, as we witnessed earlier this year. And it's funny that she's pointing out that these cryptocurrencies that are not backed by anything are less stable and less secure and less able to be used as money when central bank money is backed by absolutely nothing, again, other than the government's monopoly on violence. And then finally, the entry of big tech into payments could increase the risk of market domination, dependence on foreign payment technologies. Basically, central banks are worried across the board about losing their monopoly on the control and the creation of money. So they're wanting to get ahead of this instead of developing something or allowing people to just choose what people would want to choose for themselves. They're saying, hey, no, we need to get in front of this and we need to create another version of money that is more locked down, that benefits us even more. We need to get people on board with this as soon as possible before they have a chance to escape our grasp. And no, I'm not being hyperbolic there, because she literally says that. By designing digital and public money, we can get ahead of these developments and ensure that confidence in the monetary system is maintained and innovation is nurtured. Again, we have to get in front of people choosing alternative forms of money for themselves so that people will still have faith. This is a faith-based, trust-based monetary system. They'll still have that confidence in our money, because God forbid we allow people to have a little bit of time to see what other forms of freedom money are out there, choose for themselves, and then they choose something else other than government money, and we lose our grip. Now, if you're wondering why I am being so hard on CBDCs, it's because of the next two issues that Christine Lagarde actually brought up in her speech. Number one is privacy. In their public consultation, 43% of the respondents said that privacy was the most important aspect of the digital euro. Especially if you're trying to take away people's physical cash, that's going to be a concern. And it is a good concern for people to have, because the very definition of a central bank digital currency means the central bank has access to all public information and private information about the individuals using it. Take, for example, your current bank account. Your bank knows your income. They know your expenses. They know your financial history. They know your birthday, your social security number, your name, your history, everything about you, to comply with both their own internal needs to know who people are, but also from the government, the KYC, know your customer, anti-money laundering laws, the Patriot Act. They have to keep tabs on all this information, feed it along to the government in the name of protecting against money laundering and funding terrorism. And that is why she said that full anonymity, like you have with cash, does not appear to be a viable option in her opinion. Again, cash governments hate, because they can't track it, they can't tax it, they can't see it, they can't stop it from taking place. They don't like cash. So there's an all-out war against people using cash. It would get in the way of public policy objectives like anti-money laundering and combating terrorism. And it would make it virtually impossible, if it was fully private, to limit the use of the digital euro as a form of investment. Now, what is going on here? Well, this is, again, they're slightly showing their hand here that what they need to do with this is control more. So they want to make sure if people have too much in savings, they can stop it. Yes, that is one of the express purposes. From kitcode.com, we can see that the idea is being explored that while the project is still in its investigation phase at the ECB, there's an idea that a store of value limit of 3,000 euros and a monthly transaction limit of 1,000 transactions are currently being discussed. They might also initially have a possible 50 euro cap on transactions. And so for an entity that wants to stimulate spending, cause a specific amount of inflation to transfer the cost of their own debt and spending onto the people that they are transferring that purchasing power away from, it would get in the way of their plans if people were actually allowed to save. So you've got an expense of $4,000 coming up. Too bad, you can't save for it. You're gonna have to save only $3,000 and then you're capped. You try to save beyond that, you lose it. So guess what? You're gonna have to spend it or go into debt instead. Because God forbid, people actually save and we grow a pool of savings that we can actually reinvest into future production and investment and growth. No, they're smart enough up in their ivory tower, these elites that all have the exact same view of the little peons below. They're the pigs with the squinty eyes because they become so fat, and you look to the animal, look to the pig, look to the man, look to the pig, look to the man, and you can no longer tell a difference. That's exactly what's happening here. Full top-down tyrannical control over an economy, just a slow burn to get there. We can't do it all at once, like boiling a frog in the pot. We've got to make sure that the people don't realize that a CBDC is pure tyranny. And finally, just to ensure that there is no competition for their money, they're talking about legal tender status. Sure, there are principles such as freedom and competition, but we need to bear in mind it is a constitutional feature of cash as central bank money to be legal tender. So we need to make sure that our CBDC, our digital money, is legal tender. We don't want there to be competition for this because they know if there's competition, people will choose freedom. And that's what this all comes down to, choice. It always comes down to choice. When presented with two options, people will always rationally choose the one that benefits themselves the most. And so if you want to enforce policy on people that is other than what they would freely choose, you have to take away the other choice. You have to make it illegal to do anything else. So don't take the bait. When they offer you the next stimulus check, when they say you can't get your tax refund any other way, when they say that you can't get your medical payments, when you say you can't pay for your health insurance, when they say whatever it is, they say you can't do this unless you sign up for the new CBDC because it won't be mandatory at first. Otherwise, people will push back too much. They'll give you an option. They'll say, hey, if you want this, we're going to dangle a carrot in front of you. If you want the carrot, you've got to come over to our side, sign up for that CBDC. No matter what, this is the line in the sand that people cannot cross because there's just no coming back from it. And as a final note, just in case you don't have gold, silver, Bitcoin, things outside of the current financial system, get on that as soon as possible. You want to make sure you have it before you need it, because if you need it and you don't have it yet, you won't be able to get it. As always, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.